Let's go to Lagos now and take some questions.
Well, Mr. Ngige, it's good that you're commending the CJN and the steps he's taken with his team to see that the judiciary is, the image of the judiciary is redeemed. But there are those who are concerned about, let's look at the Justice Salami Committee, for instance. There are those who are concerned about the makeup of that committee. Do you think that committee is viable as regards its makeup?
The committee is viable, but I share, I appreciate the concern of those criticizing the composition of that committee. From the judicial officers or ex-judicial officers in that committee, I don't have any problem. Where I have problem are the practicing lawyers that are in that committee. I believe that the lawyers that are there, even though they are past presidents of NBA or members of NJC, they are the players in the league. You don't put a player to be a referee in a match. So the concern about likely conflict of influence, conflict of interest is, I think, is well taken. And I believe that the CJN will look into that issue and see the possibility of reconstituting it with senior lawyers, particularly senior advocates who are in the academia. They are not active players in litigation. There are many of them from the Institute of International Affairs and the like, senior advocates. Bring them as members of this committee. Leave all those past presidents of NBA because they have pending cases on corruption matters in courts across the country. So it's not being fair to them to make them monitor the cases that are going, because there will be conflict. And if any report is presented that is adverse to the judge may say it's because that SAN had a case before me, and that's why they wrote an uncomplimentary report about me. Or because that SAN won his case before that judge, that's why they wrote complimentary report about it. So they should be excluded in the interest of justice, in their own interest. That's my own take on it. I share, to an extent, the view of those who have expressed reservation about the composition of that committee. And I believe that the CJN is a listening person. He will look into it and maybe do something about it.
Well, Mr. Ngige, I'm sure the CJN and his team would have thought about this, the fact that this Omar presidents of the NBA have court pending cases. I'm sure they would have thought about that before they appointed them. What if that committee or this members of this committee are made to take an oath, or, I mean, make a commitment that they will not allow whatever it is that they are part of to influence their activities as members of that committee?
I wouldn't know whether there was a prior investigation or inquiries as to their likely conflict of interest with respect to cases they have in various courts on corruption matters. I don't know whether there was such inquiry, but the issue having been raised, it should be considered. It's not late. The committee has not been inaugurated. It's an ad hoc committee. And then I don't know whether there is any oath. They are not taking any oath. It's just an ad hoc assignment to help NJC. And then the other reservation is also that members of NJC, the lawyers there that are members of NJC, I think they should equally be recused from that committee, because they are the ones that, as members of NJC, that will receive the report of the monitoring committee. So you cannot put such people as members of the monitoring committee, and they will also sit to receive and deliberate on the report. So let the committee be totally composed of people who are detached from NJC, those retired, Justice Salami is not a member of NJC to the best of my knowledge, and then some of the other judges there. But if some of them are members, they can still contribute one way or the other at the NJC sitting. Let this committee be composed of those who are not members of NJC. They will do a detached assignment and present it to the body. They will consider and implement.
There are terms of reference, some of the things they are supposed to do. Regulate, monitor proceedings at designated courts for financial and economic crimes nationwide, advise your lordship on how to eliminate delay in the trial of some of these cases, give feedback to the NJC on progress, conduct background checks on judges selected for the designated court, evaluate the performance of the designated court. Do you think this terms of reference is wide enough, or is it too narrow?
It's wide enough. The only aspect I would have canvassed for inclusion of an additional terms of reference, that their report should equally be made available to the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the chief law officer and the chief prosecutor of the Federation. The report of this committee should equally be made available to the Attorney General, because the report will equally deal with the competence or the conduct of the prosecutors handling matters for the prosecution. If the conduct of the prosecutors needs to be reported, that committee will equally report, and the person they will report to is not NJC as such, but to the Attorney General of the Federation. EFCC is under the Attorney General, ICPC is under the Attorney General. So there is need to include that committee should forward the report of their investigation or monitoring to the Attorney General of the Federation and the Attorney General of the states, as the case may be.